Welcome, everybody. I'm Lori Gambacorda.
And I'm Lisa Byrne, and we're with E.P.I.C, Empowering People, Inspiring Community. And on our E.P.I.C expert interviews today, we have with us Linda Bonde of The Edge of Silence. Welcome.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be here.
So, Linda, let's start with there might be some folks who are not familiar with the term harmonic therapy. So, why don't we start there with you giving an explanation what it is and how they can benefit from it?
Harmonic therapy is an opportunity. Anything can be harmonic therapy, but in our instance, we actually use the sound of metal a lot to create harmonic therapy. Metal has a wonderful vibration and resonance that creates for many, many people, a place of, a sense of peace, an ability to shut your mind off, because you're just kind of going with the vibrations, you're going with the harmonics of each of the instruments, and it's a wonderful experience. And really, you have to almost experience it to really appreciate it, because many people don't realize how helpful and beneficial it is until you've experienced it.
So, how about we go a little bit into it? So for folks who really don't understand, how is it that vibration is able to do those things for people? Like, if you could explain to folks how it is that harmonics interact with the physical body, the energetic bodies, to create that experience that you're talking about.
Well, I'm going to get real simple. So for many of us, first of all, we were created from the earth, and through the millennia, our bodies have adapted and tuned into the things that you find in nature, whether you're walking in nature, whether you're, hearing the wind blow through the trees and the leaves, whether you're hearing a bird singing, and all of that is vibration, all of that is harmonics, but we don't think about it. I think an example that many people could identify with is a bird singing and how it makes you feel. It's for many of us, you have this innate ability to just go there into a relaxed space when you're hearing a bird sing. And for me, like the wind blowing through the trees, I just think it's already there for us. And we've separated ourselves so much because of the Western, the way we live now, and that we miss that. We're not out in the woods. We're not living in the way and the manner that we used to. And so we've tapped into other ways of being able to get that experience. That doesn't necessarily mean you go outdoors to do it, but it's there. It's present for every single one of us, and and it's a wide spectrum. And the way we do it is through the sound of metal, all kinds of metal and wooden instruments and things like that. So I hope I answered your question there.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the particular instruments then? You said metal, but people may or may not know what
Right.
instruments
Well,
not. And yeah, let us know about, we know that you do individual sessions and group sound journeys, and we'll get into your background too, but since we're talking about the metal, why don't you let people know a little bit about the instruments that you and Tom, because you and your husband work
yep.
together in this
Yeah,
practice.
we work together, and that's what makes it really unique. I think I had that idea at some point when I'd been in it for a number of years and realized that if I had a partner, I think this would really work well. And I had to talk him into it. But yeah, so it all really started with the singing bowl. I won't go into that until maybe later, but it all started with a machine made singing bowl out of India that was a gift, and hearing it and falling madly in love with the sound and recognizing it. And then that just proceeded over the years to explore and find out just how much I loved metal. And that grew into Himalayan singing bowls, antiques. I found my passion and my love for them. And these are just, old bowls that were utilitarian and were made in the Himalayas, and having a wild passion for them. And then that eventually grew. You get a teacher. And then my teacher, Mitch Noor, who's out of near Pennsylvania, he's or near Philadelphia. He's that, because of my connections with him, that grew into gongs, and that just, I went hog wild with that as well, because the amazing thing about gongs are that they can be so different from one another. And so you can, and then my mind just got wild, because how can you put these together? How can you, make these melodies, how can you entrance people, and it just went wild. And so other things, chimes, chimes were added, plates were added, local people who made plates and stuff like that, bells, you know, it just has been a wonderful opportunity to explore that whole realm, um, and it just blossomed like crazy. And now we have a studio here in Pagosa, of all places. You can, the type of studio that we have should be in a big city, because it's very unique. And yeah, it's just very unique. Again, I don't even know if I answered your question, but I'm getting all jazzed, because this is really something that I love, and I don't think I get to talk about it enough.
Yeah, it's always great when, we have something we're so passionate about, and we can share it with other people. So let's talk a little bit more in detail about like your individual and group sessions. So you have the bowls and the gongs and all of these various things. Can you tell people like how it is that you pick what it is you're going to play and how long you're going to play it? If it's all intuitive, or you have a way that you work through the instruments that you have?
Well, that has morphed into, we used to be very regimented. We have a 1,300 square feet. And so we surround people with 25 gongs, and some of them are really big. And then other instruments, or Himalayan singing bowls, are out in the outer layers, chimes and things like that. And in the early days, especially when my husband came on board, we used to have kind of sheets that we would write a program out. And these programs are usually an hour. We've tried over an hour, and that seems to be just a bit too much for some folks, because they're either laying there, or they're laying in a zero gravity chair, maybe they're sitting. And that seems on average about what a person could really, because you're really sitting still, you're really going deep. And so an hour is about it. But we were going off of sheet music, or sheets that we would put together on what instruments we were going to play and for how long. And at some point, I really wanted to get away from that. It's too regimented. It worked, and it allowed us to explore different things, different ways to play the gongs. But eventually, we're now at a place where we are absolutely just winging it. We start out with, okay, let's decide what which gong are you going to start with, or how. And the whole goal of that hour, the first thing we do we usually spend the first 20 to 30 minutes really in training people. So you're actually just doing something that's very melodic, very wavy, and whatever we're doing, we don't want to introduce sounds that can bring someone out of that, like a big, there's all sorts of ways that you can play these. You can play them really crazy too, but that's not what we're after. And so that first 20, 30 minutes is usually just a nice wavy, people go really deep. Sometimes they fall asleep. And yet they're still present to some degree. And then after that, depending on the audience, and it's always intuitively, and I don't know why why I do it, but sometimes it seems like we need to bump the energy up a little bit, and we'll play a gong in a particular way where it can bring you out of where you're at just enough for you to be now aware of what's going on slightly. And we do that with a purpose. It's well, if it's intuitively, if we're doing it that way, you don't often know why you're doing it. And then later, if you get a chance to talk to the audience, you might get a clue why it happened. But a lot of times you don't. And then, so we usually start with that nice wavy harmonic sound. And then we also end with it. Maybe the last 10 minutes, we also end with it. So that people can get really relaxed back into that nice space. And then we gently bring them out, usually with chimes or whatever we come up with, maybe a bell, maybe we'll hit the bell and then gently bring them back out of it. So that's kind of what happens in a session.
And how do they differ from individual sessions? You do a variety of things, right? You do sound journeys with several people, and now with the restrictions and stuff, I know we've seen where people have masks and they're social distance, but then you also do couples therapy or sessions and individual sessions. So how do those differ? I'm assuming they're all intuitive, but do things go on the body when it's an individual session?
We did more of that in the early days, and certainly in my early days, I usually did individuals and had items on the body, and we can still do it. But I think we've kind of pulled away from that. We're kind of open up to if somebody suggests we have people come in and they're very familiar with singing bowls. They've experienced it. They'd like to experience it again. Then we have massage tables. We have ability to put them up and create that space for them. But we also have our own knack, where we're doing our thing, with however it comes up for us. And so generally it's putting them in the middle of the room, whether they're we have these lovely mats that are there, and then we put down, we do spread, so going back though, we were doing public events, bi-monthly public events. We have put that on hold. I think we're going to put it on hold through February, and we'll see about March. And that's because of COVID. But even we were doing public gong baths, as we call them. We like to call them sound journeys. We were doing it with less of an audience, and we were spreading them out 6 feet apart and being very mindful. But in our early days, we were able to get up to 50 people in there because it's a big space. But that's on hold. So, but even the small groups are even on hold for right now until we get a sense of when it's appropriate to restart them. And we'll probably again start with smaller groups. So we're really focused now on doing private events for individuals, couples, and then private groups, of course. And again, keeping in mind with the COVID precautions and all that kind of stuff, but and trying to really focus more on that nowadays. So did I answer your question? I hope I did.
Yeah. So let's switch gears a little bit here. You mentioned your teacher, Mitch Nur, and actually Lisa and I are familiar with Mitch. We actually moved here from that same region of Pennsylvania.
Oh, hot dog.
And, so you mentioned your experience. So can you share with the people watching or listening, what was it about that bowl when you got it? Like what was your experience that made you fall in love and decide to sort of take this? I mean, and where were you? Like what were you doing at the time that sort of made you take this fork in the road toward doing sound healing?
Wow, it's definitely been in the gut. It has been, I've been following in the gut, and if you were to pay attention to, if you were a fly on the wall and you were paying attention to me, you'd say, "Wow, she puts the cart before the horse." But that's kind of the way I operate, and I'm driven by, this passion. And what I have to say about it is, first of all, I had a young couple, a nice young man who was in the neighborhood who was building a house for his father. They went to India, and him and I used to meditate together. He would come over and we would meditate, and nice young man. Well, he got hooked up with a woman, a lovely woman, and they went to India, got married over there, and they brought back for me a machine made singing bowl, just a kind of a small one. And it had, if I remember right, a Buddha in the middle of it. And I didn't know that that was the start of something really big. I had no idea. And I played it. And it was an easily played bowl. And I guess what I have to say about that is, for us older folks, and I'm 62, you just never know. You can live a long time and you just never know when something's going to come along and sweep you off your feet. You think you know life, and then it just on a dime turns, and it can be just full of passion. And that's what this has been. And that metal bowl, the first thing I noticed about it is the chattering in my mind stopped. And that's all I was doing, was just rimming it. And that was so important because meditation is difficult for me. And without hardly any effort, that chattering stopped. And that was a big deal to me. And it made my heart sing. And then I was just driven then to know, what are these? What do I, and I got books, and I got wild and crazy, and I ended up going around the country and buying what I wasn't buying new bowls. I started, and I don't even remember how I found out about the old bowls. I'd have to think on that one, but my first old Himalayan singing bowl, they're so rich in sound because they've been, some of these are 200, 100 to 300 years old, if you can get your hands on them, and they have been used and washed by families and have this historical background that we'll never know about, but they are smooth. Their decorations or their engravings are gone, on a lot of them. Sometimes they're thin walled because they've been just used over time. And but they become this really rich sound that is, and then you get crazy because, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And I realized you could put sets together. And so I went around the country buying up bowls left and right. And thank God I had a job. And I fly for a living, or I was flying for a living. And every state that I would go into, I would explore who had bowls. And then at some point I realized I had such a passion for it. I don't even know how I came across Mitch. Mitch, with his brain, he'll probably remember how, but I just found out he taught singing bowls. He did these really long camps that you could go to. And I went for an 8-day, very full, very intensive, in Quakerstown. They had a shop there, and did this intense workshop, and I was in love. I was in love with the people. I was in love with the modality. I was in love with this sense of adventure. And then that's how it got started. And then years later, I went to Nepal, actually, even with Mitch and his wife, and with Singing Bowl students. and we went to Kathmandu and got to actually see a bowl being made the old fashioned way. And it was a dream come true. I mean, it was just wonderful. And then some years later, Mitch let on that he also did gongs. And little did I know, he had I could be wrong. He might have more than that now. He had in his own collection at least 60 gongs. And I did not know this because we never talked about gongs, but then he started gongs. And I remember thinking, oh, gongs, oh, I don't want to go there. But but again, I had not recognized that what I had fallen in love with, or what I've always loved, is the sound of metal. I just never knew it. And then when the gongs came along and I started really exploring it, I realized, oh, it happened to be I know what it was. It was a salad bowl, a metal salad bowl. And I had hit it at home and I heard it and I was like, oh, oh. And then I realized, my God, girl, you just love metal. It's so wonderful and rich. Anyway, and then the whole gong thing was an adventure in itself. Something so exciting that happened in 2019 is that Mitch, along with some other important folks in this field, put together a gong summit. And it was in Chester, Connecticut, and people from around the world went, and it was the first of its kind. And Tom and I went, and we brought a gong maker actually here, it lives in Pagosa. He came with us too, and we found our tribe. We just found our tribe of people, and they were from everywhere, Italy, you name it. It was, and it's just has been wonderful since. And, but again, to get the studio, I don't know if you're there yet, if you want me to tell you that story, but that again was, after a while, I had gongs in the house. We live in a small cabin, gongs everywhere, bowls everywhere. And I was using our mother-in-law's cabin for the treatment areas. But again, that was getting crowded. And at some point, I started feeling a little bit of pressure of like, what am I doing? Where am I going with this? And one night, I fell asleep and I had a dream. And in the dream, somebody was handing me this watch. And I took the watch and I remember thinking, but I don't wear a watch. And then I woke up and I went to the bathroom. So I'm sitting on the toilet and I'm thinking, and by the way, I get really real. I'm not shy individual here. But I was thinking about this, but actually I was getting out of bed thinking, whoa, that was a dream. And I got out of bed, I took my leg over the bed and I got up and I walked through this big black gong. And I got a few steps and it was like, whoa. And I looked behind me and the gong was gone. So I went and sat on the toilet and I'm like, what the heck? Well, I come to conclude was in my dream, it was, here's a watch, it's time. If you're confused, it's time for you to do something. And if you're confused about what it has to do with, it's the gong. And the next day I went out like this pressure that I just had to find a space. I didn't even know where that came from. And how am I going to find a space in Pagosa? And I was just driving, and I landed in the right spot. I landed at a realtor's office who was in the building that we're at now. And I was telling her, I just need a gutted space. I mean, I already knew I just need a gutted big space with a bathroom. That's all I need. And she said, well, matter of fact, I have the space. And she took me upstairs, and by God, if that wasn't it. And I could not imagine how much that space was going to cost. And I knew what I could afford. And before I got home, they accepted my offer. And it took Tom and I a year to make that space what it is today. Tom had to soundproof a wall, a big, big wall. And it took a year to paint it and get it all ready. And I walk into that space and I'm in love. Never felt that way about a building or structure at all, but I walk into it and I love it. And yeah, it's very joyful.
Well, I applaud your enthusiasm and your following your heart and those vibrational frequencies. And I feel like you're a soul sister. I've been involved in doing sound with a variety of instruments for a long time, and I understand you hit that, and those frequencies just have the ability to transform you on so many levels, and then for you to go out and share that wonderful experience with other people so that they can transform, all aspects of their life, from relaxation to healing and beyond. And yeah, I'm sure that when you guys transform that space, all of your instruments were like, applauding, we have a new home, this is our space to really work with people and guide them on this sacred sound current. So yay for all of that. That's fabulous. And I think you had said when we started that you had to kind of pull Tom into this. So he's not here with us, but let's honor the fact that he's doing this work with you, and tell us a little bit about how it was that you got him to make the shift to come along.
Well, Gong Camp was very helpful in that regard, because I came away from Gong Camp, and again, it was another 7 or 8 days of intense, a very full days. And one of the things that you learn to do, very first thing with Gong, they create a yoga space, and they have, I don't even know how many gongs that are all set up, and all the students are given a gong to work with, and then you trade. And one of the first things that you learn to do is how to drone on a gong, from the very tiniest sound to learning how to build that up incrementally. And it's an easy thing to do. And I just, for some reason, when I came home, I'm like, I can't do this by myself. I definitely knew I needed a roadie, but and he would be it. But I just got like this, like, he has to be part of this. He can't just be hauling gongs around for me. And so I was talking to him about it, and he's like, no, I just want to be your roadie. Thank you, but no. And I'm like, wait a minute, let me just show you something. So I got a gong, and I took some small mallets, and musser mallets, and I showed him how to drone and said, just give it a try. And he he started droning just like I showed him. And I swear within 10 minutes, he was in love. That's all it took. And the wonderful thing about Tom is that he does not play like I do. I play more intuitively, and I play slower, but Tom has this rhythm. He likes playing those mallets quickly, like one after the other. And I don't do that. And so when he does it, and he does it so well that it's some of the gongs that he plays are awesome when he plays like that. And he's really good at it. And so it's just been a wonderful experience, and I got really lucky or blessed or I don't know what, but I'm sure glad, because it's actually better with the two of us participating. And I am sure a boss, though. He has to deal with me on that, and I do feel sad for him about it, because I'm really passionate in my head, and in the moment when we're playing, I'm like, I have this like, oh, we got to go over there. And so I'm, behind the scenes while everybody's out, I'm like trying to tell him where to go. And he's like, what? And because it's just this wild path. I get so hot when I do it. I have to wear a no sleeve shirt. I get really just like sweating. I've always wondered about that, but Tom doesn't do it. He's more relaxed, but anyway, so it's on some level that we're partners and we're doing it. It's not something that's commonly seen, I feel, around the gong community. Most gong players are playing by themselves. Maybe they'll get together with a group and then play, but we're doing it so regularly that at some point now that we're actually able to what I love best about him and I is this space is really huge. I'm on one end and I will play gongs that are alike. Like we have two Italian gongs that sound really good together. So him and I will start, and then the person that's playing will eventually start going down while the other person picks up from the other side of the room, and we're just creating this wave of sound that's going back and forth. Um, and there's so many, we have over 25 gongs, and there's so much unexplored knowledge that we don't even know about. And, we'll be dead before we even learn every single one of them and what they're capable of doing in their sweet spots. Um, and I must say, we have some pretty gongs.
So how about you share with the watchers and listeners where they can find you in Pagosa, where the studio is? And I think I saw on your website that you actually sell the bowls as well now, correct?
Yep, I've actually been selling bowls. I'm really attached to them. So over time, I've bought so many bowls and created sets for my own use. They're not for sale. That you end up with extra bowls, and they're sweet bowls, and they're old, and they're at some point, Mitch said, "Linda, you got to sell those. What are you doing? You could make up back some of your money and stuff." And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. That's good. And so they don't always sell really fast, but I'm okay with that because I just love them. I love, like, even here I have my sets of bowls are here in the house. And they're going to eventually go to the studio, but we have to create a space for them first. But all my bowls that are for sale are at the studio. And I'm really okay because I want them to have good homes and really be appreciated. And so that was the answer to that one question. What was the next one?
Well, let people know where the studio is and your website so they know how to get a hold of you. And yeah, I imagine that people don't, until they have the experience. I don't think, like you said, like you have to experience it, then you get the passion, and then you want to buy a bowl. I don't think people just go out and buy a bowl just I don't know, without having the
You're
experience first.
absolutely right. Why would anybody buy a bowl, without having prior knowledge or experience? And so, and that's really true. Um, but we hope to get, we have a retail space. And so we even sell gongs now. I'm even getting in, we have a local gong maker who's making gongs out of titanium, and he's finally really hit this sweet spot now. He also makes wind harps. Um, and so I'm really proud to be able to help him sell his gongs. We also, today, we were just getting a shipment from another gong maker who is in Rhode Island, and he makes his gongs out of stainless steel. And so we're going to be selling those along with some gongs that are from Kathmandu, China, places like that. So yeah, it's looking pretty. But by the way, our studio is right off of 160. We're sort of we're kind of by Walmart, a ways yet away. The studio actually faces 160, and it's in a stucco building by itself. The address is 2839 Cornerstone Drive, and it's number 5, which is upstairs. But yeah, we have 1,300 square feet in there, and yeah, we try to make everybody really comfortable.
That's awesome. And so can people just go to the website, which is theedgeofsilence.org?
Yep.
They can
Yep.
sign up for your email there so that they can get on a list of your upcoming events, or they'll be able to see them on the website? You said you thought about potentially starting these up again in March.
Yep. Yeah, and I actually do have a central mail list that I will email everybody once or twice a month just to let them know what's up. And so, yes, I do recommend that if folks are interested to maybe send me your email address and I'll get you on it. I try not to make, we don't do send too many emails, but it just basically lets you know what we're doing, when the bi-monthly groups are, and anything else that's fun. We also use the space of, so the full name of the business is The Edge of Silence, Sound Therapies and Holistic Practices. And so the purpose behind the holistic practices, when you live in a town, I don't think it matters where you're at. There's a lot of folks out there who have great ideas and are capable of putting on a program, whether it's yoga, massage, whatever, but they can't afford the space. And so Tom and I are not, the studio is you really by appointment only. So we open it up. We are there from on Saturdays from 10 to 3 regularly for the general public to come in and do shopping or impromptu sound events, if somebody's willing. Or if they want to play the gongs, we are happy to show them how to drone and any specifics that they might be interested in. But in between, we have a calendar where people can sign up, if they're using the studio for something, and sign up for their time. So we want to make sure that studio is being used for events. Obviously, we had a whole fun summer full of events that we were going to have, and of course COVID just squashed that. But eventually we'll get to that again, eventually. And I'm already hearing some druthers about from some folks that are thinking, well, let me see what I can do. Anyway, the whole purpose is, for not a whole lot of money, you can use our space. And so we want to make sure that people who can't afford it can actually have a space to create their programs and stuff. So we're open to that as well. I'm kind of picky, but so far the programs that we've had, that the people have come in, are wonderful. They're just wonderful. And then the people they bring in are wonderful. So I'd like to do more of it.
Yeah, that's a great idea and such a generous way to, be using your space and to help other people that are doing similar things, but not the exact same thing, which is
Right.
great. So we like to ask this question. So if you go to your life when you were younger, so prior to this big passionate experience that you've had with sound healing, what advice would you give your younger self now, knowing all that you know about sound healing?
That's a hard question. Let me take a swig of coffee. Oh, I don't know. I think I'd like to have been able to hug myself when I was a kid and just say, yeah, life is hard. Life is hard. And life can be really hard at times, but you just never know. If you wait long enough, you just never know when an adventure is around the corner. And it isn't going to be like this. It isn't going to remain the same. It's going to change, and it will continue to change and morph, and you just never know what's around the corner. You just will never know. And while you might not believe it in this moment, because you just feel like you're stuck, I'm here to tell you that that's not the way it is. I think that's probably what I would do or say. And I would also say, you won't believe, there's no way I can explain to you what's down the road for you, because it's so wild and passionate, and you're going to be doing things from your gut. You're not going to be doing it from the mind. You're not going to be doing it from the heart. There's a little bit of that going on, but you're going to be doing it from the gut. I don't think I was connected to my gut. I think when you're a kid, it wasn't until as an older adult that, that gut, being in tune with your gut is so important, as well as your heart and your mind. And if they participate, that's even better. And if your heart's singing, well, you better listen to that.
Or you're dreaming about gongs and watches, you better listen to that. There's a message in it. So
I love that story. I'm telling you, it was true. It was a dream. And I've had those experiences. Those are the types of things that guide me. I have a whole chakra full of those things that have gotten me. But this, I have to say, is one of those, I don't know what the hell I'm doing and why I'm doing it, but I am mad about this. I just couldn't be happier. It really helped me. When we're playing for the audience, we're also receiving it. You know, we're also receiving it, because my mind shuts down when I'm playing, other than just all of a sudden, again, that gut go there. I'm quiet too. And I can't speak for Tom. I think he's quiet anyway. He's a guy, but um it works both ways, and I think that's what's driven me to keep on going. And are we going to survive? Are we going to, I mean, really, our studio should really be in a big ass city. It really should. um but I love the idea of it being in Pagosa. I really do. I'd love to make a name. We're getting calls from people around in the state and outside the state, of people who is a drivable distance. They could come, or they have questions and they need advice on how to buy a gong or where to buy a gong. And I'm not attached to selling a gong from us. I'm attached more to how can I make them as happy as I've been. And we have known we now know gong makers around the world, and we have gongs that are from Germany. We have Burmese gongs. We have from China, Vietnamese gongs, and gongs from the US, titanium. We have one of our favorites are our gongs from Italy. There is a couple up in Italy. They have a business called Grata Sonora, and they also make gongs from stainless steel, not from bronze. And the designs of their gongs, the wife is the artist, and it is phenomenal what they're coming up with. They're not only are they wonderful to hear, but they are beautiful to look at. Beautiful. And it's just, you just never know around the corner what's going to happen, or who's going to create this. And everybody's oohing and awing, and I try to snap them up when I can. But I think we're at a point where we're kind of full.
well, it's awesome that you guys are, willing to share your space, and all the services you're providing for everyone. And we'll just ask one last question. It was
Okay.
great advice to your younger self. So, as a wrap up question, if you were going to look 5 or 10 years forward, what are you hoping the impact from what you guys are doing will have on the community or the world?
I definitely am really interested, not so much about the world. I'm really feeling like it's important for us to really participate in our own communities. I think that's really where it's at. And so I'm always right now exploring what can I do to be a participant in our local community. What can we do to help folks out? What services can we offer? That's still kind of untapped for us on some level. I think it's just something you grow into. And we do have regulars now that come from Pagosa or locally from Durango and stuff. And, but I'd like to have more of a connection, whether it's just through the sound or anything else that we can do, you know, I think it's definitely something that needs to be further explored, but that's what I'm most interested in. And I'd like to see in 5 to 10 years, something bigger yet that we're doing, you know, because death is just around the corner, you know, so time's a ticking and I better get going. So, and I love advertising in Epic. We're down to now, just so to let you know, we're down to now just advertising in Epic. I think we get more bang for a buck that way, and we get to be in touch with people of Durango. And I also want people in Pagosa reading Epic too. So I'm very interested in that. Yeah, so I just I believe I love the work that you guys are doing, and I really love that my friend wrote a story that's essentially about me and you guys published it. It really made my heart sing. So um, I love what you guys do.
Thank you so much for that. Thank
Well,
you for your time today. It's been really, really fun to hear your story, to get to know you a little bit better, and to share you with the larger Epic community and Epic tribe. Um, and you want to just let people know one more time, website, location of the store, and how they can get in touch with you.
yeah, the website is theedgeofsilence.org. And I do ask forgiveness because I spend most of my time not updating that. So, but I try. And then we're located right off of 160, kind of in the middle of Pagosa, so easy to find, at 2839 Cornerstone Drive, number 5. So we're upstairs in that building. And uh, yeah, I would welcome anybody to call or email or come visit us on Saturdays. Let us know what you're interested in. We love to do impromptu teaching events, and also just pay attention on what we're going to be doing down the road, because it will blossom further. I think, like all of us, COVID has hit us hard, and we've had to try to figure out uh, what we can do around that. So I think it's just going to get better. That's all there is to it.
Linda, thank you so much for your time. Again, visit Linda and Tom in Pagosa or theedgeofsilence.org. And for more information about Epic, you can visit us at epicmag.org. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.